Hello, everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of the Stephen King podcast. This is episode 44, and it is a very fine episode indeed because we have the book collector, Emmanuel Manetakis from Very Fine Books, a website that deals in collectible books, here today to talk to us about, amongst many things, the Stephen King books that are out there as collectibles and what makes a good collectible book, so forth. So stay tuned for that. It's a very interesting discussion, and we cover a lot of topics in relation to collectible books as well as Stephen King. And of course, with me as usual is my co-host, Hans. How you doing, Hans?
I'm fine.
All right. And Hans
good to be back.
Yes, it is. And Hans is going to take us into the news.
Welcome, welcome. Do not fear the door that lies before you. We will protect you. We are your guides, Hans and Lou, and we will give you the latest in Stephen King news. But before we do so, you must prove yourself worthy. You must open the door and join us in the death room.
Yes, and we start off with King's upcoming book, Finders Keepers, who is only 16 days away when we record this, so I would guess a little bit under 2 weeks when you listen to this. But already now you can check out two excerpts from it. One is in written form and one is read by Will Patton, who has read several of King's books, Mr. Mercedes to name one. And well, I have actually read the book so far already, and it's a great book. It's a great sequel to Mr. Mercedes, and I think you will all like it very much.
I have not read the book yet, so listeners, please join me in mourning, but I will get it when it comes out to the bookstore. And it's the audio I didn't read it. I just listened to the audio excerpt because I want to stay clear in my head when I get to the written version, and I don't want to read any excerpts. So I just listened to it, and I thought Will Patton did a fantastic job. And there's some great illustrations too that you should check out that accompany the article with showing the guys in the mask and whatnots. And yeah. I'm thinking that this section of the book, and I'm guessing, and Hans hasn't tipped me into anything here, but this sounds kind of like the prologue, much like the prologue from Mr. Mercedes with the people in the line for the job fair. This sort of seems to be the same kind of thing that sets up what the story's about, but maybe it's a flashback that happens later. I don't know, but it's pretty cool. It's got that Reservoir Dogs feel because there's colors, red, green, yellow. Pretty cool.
Yeah, and I won't reveal what if you're right or not.
All right, sticking on the book front, and also with an audio hint to it, is the upcoming Drunken Fireworks short story from Stephen King that Simon & Schuster is releasing as not just an audio book, but as a new format for their Play.it format. And this is an on-demand audio platform that is going through and being launched on CBS Radio and local digital media. And to quote Stephen King, great stories are often better when told out loud. This event is a cool way for more people to discover just how fun listening to my stories can be. So this book will be released and available for download on June 30th. And it's narrated by Maine humorist Tim Sample, who I'm not familiar with, but it sounds like he's, based on the title and the premise of this story, it sounds like somebody with a comedic bent is a perfect choice for this. So check that out. there's some more stuff going on there. In addition to the launch of the book, Simon & Schuster Audio is having a sweepstake that will allow people to win a travel voucher for a trip to see the annual July 4th fireworks show in New York, as well as getting a complete collection of Stephen King's Simon & Schuster audio recordings and additional prizes which are not laid out in the article. So if you follow the link from Hans's story on his website from Monday, May 13th, it will take you into that webpage, and then you can open up the link, the press release article, and see all the information that I've just relayed to you about the contest and whatnot. So, and also this story will be one of the ones that will be part of the Bizarre Bad Dreams collection as well. So there's a lot of good, cool stuff there.
Yeah.
Check it out. And Play.it, just for a little clarification, is a new podcast network that sounds like they're trying to recapture the old radio theater kind of broadcasts with what they're doing there. So that's cool too.
I think I would prefer to win every audiobook that Simon & Schuster has released than see the fireworks, actually.
I think it's all part of the same package, but
okay.
I'm not sure. Yeah, it looks like it's all part of the same package, and I'm just contest details I haven't looked into, but I imagine you probably have to be a resident of the United States to be eligible as well. So
that's often the problem with the contests.
Yeah.
And in
postage
in
and
that
contests.
Yeah, in that word I can mention that there's a contest over at liliaslibrary.com for finders keepers that anyone can enter wherever you live, whoever you are.
And how many days are left in that contest? 14.
Yeah.
14.
So it will be quite a few less when this goes out. So you better head over there now to enter before it's too late.
That's right.
Okay, back to the news. Simon & Schuster has released, or partly released, the cover for The Bazaar of Bad Dreams. And they are releasing this one in 5 parts. And for every part, you get to see more and more and more of the cover. So the last one will be out this upcoming Friday, the 22nd. So when you listen to this, you will probably be able to see the full cover. Right now it's just head with no face, and in it is strange images of a boat and butterflies and other interesting stuff.
Yeah, this awesome cover.
Yeah, the only thing I am not that fond of is the font they are using for the book's title. It's done, it looks like it's painted with a paintbrush, and I think I would prefer a different font for that, but I think the head and the non-existing face is really cool, so we'll see how it looks when it's I can't really imagine what's missing when I'm looking on this the 4th version of the cover. Something is missing, since there will be one more reveal.
Yeah, I'm just looking at it because it's got the title, The Bazaar of Bad Dreams, but it also has the word stories off to the right, which seems to be it's not the book title, right? So I'm not really sure why that
could be because
stories
it's a collection.
Stories. Bizarre stories of bad dreams. The Bizarre Bad Dreams. I don't know where stories comes into it. So, but
there's something missing.
I don't mind the font, and I love the imagery. If anything, I wish that one butterfly had his hairline wasn't so big. I wish it was smaller, but that's a minor quibble. But that's a really cool cover, and I love the boat with the river and the trees arching over from one bank over to the other side of the river bank. I think it's a river. That's a really cool cover.
Yep. Should be interesting to see what it looks like when it's finished.
And now we're turning to TV. And quick news here, back on early May, Hulu had their upfront presentations, and this is basically where TV networks or streaming services gather all the advertisers and partners that they have, and they basically go through everything that they've got on their schedule for the upcoming year. And it was revealed at that presentation that the Hulu's miniseries based on Stephen King's novel 11/22/63, the time travel John Kennedy story, will premiere in 2016. Not specific date though, but just 2016.
No, and I remember we speculated in if it would premiere in this year, but I guess now we know it won't. So
right. So I imagine it'll be in the fall or in the fall. Is it? It's not specifically said the date, which is too bad.
No, just say next year, and hopefully early next year.
Spring, hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah.
Since the cast seems to be almost set, I guess they would be able to start filming pretty soon.
If they're not,
So
if not doing so already.
yeah, so hopefully before summer, but we don't know. We only know next year.
Yeah.
I don't know. Is Hulu the kind of like Netflix where they release
Sort of, yeah.
entire season at once, or do they have once a week?
That's a good question. I'm not sure how they're going to do that. I think they would probably stagger it a little bit. They might release it all at once, but I'm not sure about that.
Yeah, because that may depend on when they're releasing it. Because if they're going to release everything at once, they have to have everything finished. If they are releasing it once a week, they could have some work left on the last episode when the first air.
Yeah, and I'm just looking at the IMDb page and something interesting there. And IMDb is not always the most accurate site, so you have to take it with a grain of salt. And this might get updated as more information comes out. But under the writing credits, they have series writing credits. They have Bridget Carpenter with 1 episode. And the other 9 episodes are accredited to Stephen King. So I don't know if he's written the scripts for 9 episodes. I find that a little hard to believe, considering he's trying to get his 3rd book in the Hodges trilogy done. So maybe they just put his name there because they didn't know who the other writers were. But the last time we had that kind of involvement was with Kingdom Hospital.
Yeah. He is very productive, but I think that's even too much.
That's
for him
stretching it, I think. Yeah, I'm sure that'll get fleshed out. But it's interesting to keep. We'll have to keep an eye on that and see if that stays current.
Yeah. Next up is something that we have been waiting for a long time: the announcement of who will play Pennywise, or not really, who is in talks of playing Pennywise.
Yes, we need to emphasize that.
Yeah, we haven't seen any confirmation, but it says that Will Poulter is in talks of playing Pennywise in the remake of It. And if you go to my site, I have a photo there of him. And when I look at that, I see Pennywise. I think he will be, just by looking at him, I think he will be perfect as look-wise. It depends on his acting. I haven't seen him in much. I actually just saw The Maze Runner pretty recently.
Yeah.
I didn't know he was going to play Pennywise when I saw it, which is bad because I would have seen him with other eyes then. Yeah. But I think he did okay there. So I think he would work as an actor. But mainly I think he has the look for it, because you can almost see the fangs coming out of him and the evil look.
Yeah.
So I think they could make him. Some people have commented that they think he looks too young, but I mean that isn't really a problem in Hollywood. They could easily make him look older if they need to. So. And
clowns are ageless to begin with, so I'm not. That is an interesting comment. I think maybe that's more a tie that the viewers have made between Tim Curry playing that character, and Tim Curry was obviously much older when he played the character, but really clowns are timeless. So as long as he's got the acting chops to carry, and maybe they're just referring to the fact that because he's young, he probably won't be able to exhibit the right amount of menace, because usually for like for the heavy roles in that, you want to get a good character actor or somebody that really throws himself into a role like Heath Ledger did with the Joker. But from a physical standpoint, I think he's got the perfect face to become Pennywise. And I really hope that they don't overdo the makeup on his face beyond like the base clown makeup, because I think his features are perfect for being a clown. Like I'm sure once he gets like a big set of makeup, red lips on him, they put some, I can see almost when I look at the picture, I can just see them with the sharp teeth smiling, it's just like, I think he's got the perfect face for it. So the age thing is puzzling to me, but I guess there'd be people just think that Tim Curry was so much older when he played the role. I guess, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just waiting for confirmation that he has accepted the role and that this is actually true and not just a rumor.
Yes,
but I think it would be perfect.
I think so too, and I totally agree with you. We have to emphasize that this is just being reported on. There has been no official announcement from the studio, so it very well could turn out to be somebody else later. but chances are that Will Poulter will be playing Pennywise. But until we get final confirmation, it's not a done deal.
Yeah, and this was reported May 4th, so it's been quite a while. And if it was totally just made up, we would probably have had some kind of comment on that. So I think I believe that he is in talks to play the role, but nothing has been confirmed yet. So
Right. All right. Okay, continuing with movie news, we now turn to a production of a joint piece of work that was done by Stephen King and Joe Hill. And that is the news from Joe Blow that Tall Grass is being turned into a movie. And this is the director behind Cube, which I like quite a bit. That's a kind of a B science fiction movie. If you've never seen it, you should check it out. He's also done some episodes of Hannibal, as well as Hemlock Grove. So this is definitely a director and that's Vincenzo Natali, who knows how to direct horror. So from that perspective, I'm really excited. But from a story perspective, and you remember we reviewed that story on one of our podcast episodes, I was let down by the second half of the story. And Hans, I don't remember exactly what your feelings were on that story.
yeah, they were the same for me. I think the first part of the story was great, but the second, not so great.
Yeah. So from that, from that whole perspective of filming the scenes where they wander out into the grass and get lost and all that stuff, I think that can be really, really well done and really cool. But I'm also afraid that this might be the launch of another Children of the Corn movie series.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think this is a good movie to make. I think there's other stories that are better suited for doing a movie. One thing that would be fun with this one is that it's actually a story by King and Joe Hill.
Yeah.
So it would be a first film based on both their stories. So that would be interesting. But I think there's other that would do better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think the first part of the movie, like going out into the grass and that, I think the first 2/3 of this movie can be really good, but I was not impressed by the climax. So I don't know how close they're going to stick to that, but if they quite willing or happy if they decide to change the ending, so to something different than that, but we'll have to see.
They only filmed the first half of the story.
Yeah. Something like that. Yeah.
Yep. And to end the news today, we are going to do that with a quote by Stephen King himself. That goes like this: "If you turn down a good idea, you're a fucking asshole." And King said this.
There goes our TV 14 rating.
Yep. Sorry. King said this actually to himself when he accepted Edgar Award for Best Novel from Mr. Mercedes, because when he got it for Mr. Mercedes, and when he was planning to write Mr. Mercedes, he first almost didn't write it because it wasn't the typical of the books he usually writes. But finally he said to himself that if you turn down this idea, you're well, you know. So he said it to himself. So
Go on, say it. You want to say it.
Yeah, you're a fucking asshole.
I'm gonna have to make that part of our title now.
Yeah. And a couple of days ago on YouTube, you can see when King accepted his award for Best Novel. And you can see when he introduced Charles Arday, who we know as the publisher of Joyland and The Colorado Kid.
And we've had him on the podcast.
And we have had him on the podcast. So those are pretty interesting clips that you can watch. And you can hear King say the words yourself.
Very true, very true.
So with that is our news for this time.
Well, we do have one more thing. This is kind of late breaking, and we were talking about this before we went on the air, and that's in relation to Josh Boone. And that he, on Twitter, my heart dropped when I saw it. I mean, it was great news for him, but he had just been attached to an X-Men movie. And my first thought was, selfishly, well, what about The Stand? So Hans took it upon himself to get in touch with Josh. And what happened there, Hans?
Yes, to soothe your nerves, I sent him an email where I asked him if this X-Men movie would affect the stand filming, and he told me that it wouldn't. So you can rest assured that this X-Men movie will not affect the stand.
Whew.
Woo.
But it was a very brief response, wasn't it?
Yeah, he just say nope.
Understandable. He obviously doesn't want to let the goose out of the barn before the time is right. But we appreciate it very much that he took the time to respond to your email. So thank you for doing that,
Yeah.
Josh, and putting Stephen King's fans' minds at rest. And yeah, so that was good to hear.
Yeah. Now Luke can sleep at night again.
Yes, yes. Because I really want to see that Force movie series. Please, please don't lose it.
Yep.
This is great. What's our job? We'd like drive around and pick up stiffs or what?
It's time for reviews from the night shift.
Okay, and we have our guest here today, and this is Emmanuel from Very Fine Books, and we're going to talk about collecting books and especially Stephen King books, what to look for, what to not look for, how you know if what you have is valuable, and what to think about when you get something you're interested in. So welcome, Emmanuel. Glad to have you here.
Yes, hello, and thank you for inviting me on your podcast program. I'm really happy to be here and excited to be with you guys.
Awesome.
Could you start by telling us a little bit about Very Fine Books and how you got involved in this business?
Sure. My background is actually in technology. I graduated from college with a degree in engineering, so I was always into literature, books, and reading and book collecting. But as a profession, I did mechanical engineer, and I did that for close to 15 years. But at some point after 15 or 16 years, I decided I wanted to break away from the corporate grind and start my own business. So I launched Very Fine Books in 2005. I did that part-time, actually, while I was consulting. So I took baby steps in the early stages. If you look at the evolution of the company, in the early stages, I would spend maybe 10 to 15 hours a week while I worked full-time. So back then, my wife and I didn't have any children. So I don't know if you guys have kids, but you might know that when you're raising little ones, there's not so much time available.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I launched it in 2005, and over the years it grew. I started off buying and selling Easton Press books, a lot of Stephen King books, different rare, signed, and limited editions from different areas, topics of interest and genres like presidential autographs and so forth. So my love for books actually started off early on. My family immigrated to this country in 1980. We're actually from Greece. So I was only 7 years old when we came here, and I couldn't speak or read English. I actually started off in the bilingual program for the first few months in Cambridge, and then after that joined the regular curriculum. So early on, when I was going through school, I just enjoyed reading a lot of science fiction novels like The Time Machine, A Journey to the Center of the Earth. The book The Last Unicorn was one of my favorites from Peter Spiegel. I think our teachers did a good job in exposing us to all the great classic literature titles from the time. We read the Lord of the Rings later on. I also love those Choose Your Own Adventure books. Do you remember those where you had to make a decision?
Yep.
You came to a certain part in the book and you make a decision, like if you want to choose path A, go to page 50, or if you want to choose path B, go to page, whatever.
Yeah, awesome.
So even now, books are such a large part of our lives. Our kids are now 3 and 5 years old, and ever since they were born, we read stories to them every single night before they go to sleep. Our 5-year-old, she's going to be 6 this June. She has a bookshelf in her room with about 40 to 50 children's books. So she's really into reading, and she enjoys, getting into the story and using her imagination. It's just great to have a high-quality book in your hands, whether it's a children's book or one of the signed volumes. It's a good sensory experience, I would say, just holding it and reading it. a few years ago, we went up to Exeter, Mass. We saw Joe Hill for one of his book signings for NOS 482, and I had him inscribe a book to our daughter, so she can read it later on when she's older.
Cool.
I thought that was cool.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We're actually down the street from Donald M. Graham Publishers. They're about 6 miles away from us.
Mm.
Okay.
So we're very close to them. They
Yeah.
did all the Dark Tower series books.
Right.
I started reading Stephen King when I was 16. I picked up Pet Sematary. That was the very first book I read by him. And I really enjoyed it. Then I started reading more like Firestarter, Skeleton Crew short stories, It, The Stand, all those classics that you guys are probably very familiar with.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I have to ask, how did you connect
Sure.
books with collectibles? Like, are you into collectibles across the board with other things like I don't know, baseball cards, that things too, or was it just books that you were interested in collecting?
I was interested in collecting books. I was a huge Stephen King fan, and when I launched Very Fine Books, I wanted to start a small business where I had more control over it, and I combined technology, the e-commerce technology, with the literature. So for me, it felt ideal at the time to do that. And I think one of the reason it's been so successful over the years is because of the quality books and the customer service that we have.
Right.
A lot of the stuff that you see on our site is actually cherry picked from many other books that we're exposed to every week. So we spend quite a bit of time during the week picking out only the best collectibles from a conditional standpoint,
Mm-hmm.
because there's a lot of subpar editions out there that are not very collectible, or they're not very original, they're not authentic.
How do you
yeah.
decide what books you want to bring in?
It's really what's desirable to collectors. Like when you're talking about Stephen King, a lot of the signed first editions are very collectible. The first editions from the 1970s and 1980s are collectible. We look at whether it's original and, of course, authentic. If it's an inscribed book, we look at the signature authenticity and the provenance, if possible. Whether it has the original dust jacket, whether the dust jacket is clipped or whatnot, whether there's anything that would make it appealing to a serious book collector that wants to add something unique to their library or office. And it's been a learning process. It wasn't automatic. Over the years, I've learned quite a bit by talking to our customers and clients of what they need, because ultimately it's really what your customer tells you it's valuable. You can ask $1 million for something, doesn't mean somebody's going to purchase it.
Right.
It's really worth what somebody is willing to pay for it.
Right. Right.
So that's a good rule of thumb to go by.
Right. And as somebody who's not in a position or really interested in collecting much of anything, to be honest, what is your how do books rank as an investment? Like, I know people talk about buying art and things like that,
Sure.
and to a certain degree, I guess you could say a well-made book is a piece of art. Is it sort of the same rules apply to collectible books? Is there value?
Yeah, from my experience, believe it or not, most people do not collect books as an
Right.
investment. Though some of them do have a tendency to go up in value if it's something unique and rare,
Right.
that has a very low limitation.
Mm-hmm.
Most people do it for the hobby. It's the pride of ownership. It's what the book might represent. For example, if you have a first edition of Carrie, that's a representation of when King was first published.
Right.
That's his first published novel. So
Mhm.
that's quite significant. The people that collect books that want to sell them later on for a profit, they're known as book bankers, so to
Oh,
speak.
okay.
So they hold on to something with the intention of selling it later on at a higher price.
Right.
So it's possible. Usually with Stephen King, you've seen for example, Cemetery Dance, they might put out a new signed limited edition and then it sells out within 2 hours, and then the value jumps by 2 or 3 times within a matter
Right.
of a couple of years.
Yeah.
So that was very common.
Mhm.
But for any valuable collection, needless to say, I would recommend having it insured just in case the worst happens.
For sure.
Whether your intention is to sell it for a profit later on, or if you want to pass it down to your children or grandchildren.
Yeah, and I noticed that whenever Stephen King has a book signing,
Sure.
signed books of that particular edition he's signing will show up on eBay the day after and stuff like that. So
Yeah,
I
exactly.
guess that's people who just want to make a quick buck.
Right. Yeah. In the early days, you could send books to his office, and he would inscribe them for you and send them back. But now he's gotten so huge that I think he would get millions of fan letters asking for books to be signed.
Yeah, I actually did that. Send him a book.
Okay.
Yeah, and actually a photo as well.
A photograph?
Yeah, that he signed. I've learned afterwards that he isn't very fond of signing photographs, but he signed that for me. So.
Oh, cool.
That's great.
Yeah, but I think that was about 1990 or 1991 maybe. So it's a long time ago.
Sure.
Yeah.
So, collectible market in general is across the board, I think, has become almost a fairly big business. Or there seems to be a lot of companies trying to do collectibles, and maybe you can address that as part of the value of it too, because there seems to be a lot more special edition books, and that term has kind of become pretty nebulous as to what makes a book a special edition or a collectible item. So I'm just curious how you go about determining that. Again, I guess it's what the market places on it is largely out of your hands as well. But do you have trouble sometimes determining if this book is considered a collectible or not?
Well, there's so much stuff out there.
Right.
It's a full gamut there's a wide spectrum range that, for example, you have publishers in recent times that put out sign limited editions with facsimile book plates. So these are, quote unquote, they're sign limited editions, but they have a facsimile autograph, which is not authentic. Personally, I'm not sure. I don't even know why they put those books out because they're not real.
Right.
The author doesn't have the King's real autograph. So that's one aspect. Some people collect those. Some people collect book club editions, believe it or not. There's no really right or wrong answer. It's all about personal preference and what you enjoy.
Right.
I have a good client in England who collects a lot of the early King novels from the 70s and 80s. He's got a full, complete set of the Dark Tower series, a couple of Night Shift, a couple of Salem's Lot early editions, a Carey first edition in fine condition.
Cool.
Is it possible for people to contact you and say, I would like this and this book, and you can hunt it down for them?
Yeah, we've had customers and clients in the past that ask us, I'm looking for this specific book. Can you find it for me? And sometimes we can, sometimes we can't. It's really a process of looking online, looking at different places online where that book might be available. Or a lot of the books that we buy nowadays are from private collectors that contact us. They have books to sell.
Right.
So from that standpoint, yeah, we do have those kind of client services where existing customers contact us and ask us for certain books. So for that situation, it's not something you would see on our site. A lot of times we get books in that's wanted by somebody on our list, and we offer it to them first before we even publish it online with pictures and the description.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
So you must run across a lot of books. You must run across a lot of books in your time. How do you spot the fakes? And have you been burnt ever?
I bought a couple of fakes early on in 2007 and 2008 for my own collection.
Right.
The single, obviously, the single most important advice, obviously, is to make sure you're getting something that's 100% authentic. And if you're not sure, I would recommend going to one of the more reputable online companies that specialize in autograph certification and authentication. There's the big one that you may have heard of, the the PSA DNA authentication services. There's also the PAAS, which is the Professional Autograph Authentication Services. I would recommend getting a couple of opinions because they don't always get it right. They go through so many autographs every week, and they issue so many certificates of authenticity. I would strongly recommend getting a second opinion. Also, these services, you have to send out your book for them to physically examine it under a microscope.
Right.
So if you don't want to do that, you can always go on Google and look for a local provider that does signature authentication. Just type in autograph authentication and then your zip code, and some place it should pop up.
Okay.
But in terms of...
Sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry, go on.
No, you go ahead.
So if you're looking... so when you look at an inscription, obviously a person that's going to forge it is not going to write very much. So you want to get an inscription. The longer the inscription, the better. The fakes or the near suspect books I have seen, it's only Stephen King's name.
Right.
You might see it flat signed across the title page or on the first free end paper. So the longer inscriptions have a much greater chance of being authentic, and the majority of them are. And going back, the reason Stephen King is such an author with one of the most faked autographs is because adding a signature to one of his books could increase the value of many hundreds, if not thousands of dollars.
Right.
So you really do have to be careful. I would say purchase from a reputable bookseller. Obviously, we would be delighted if you buy from us, but there are many reputable booksellers you can purchase from out there that have other Stephen King books too. So you want to look for somebody that has a specialty in that specializes in that author. So if you see a bookseller that has 30 or 40 or 50 Stephen King signed books, then they have a reputation. They want to make sure what they offer is indeed genuine, and they're going to go through the extra mile to ensure that aspect and guarantee it.
Right.
If you're looking on eBay, for example, and you see somebody selling hundreds of trinkets and they have one Stephen King signed book, then you have to be a little bit more cautious.
Right.
It must have been hard when you started out the business, because I guess you've learned all this during the years you run the business. But how did you do in the beginning? Because I imagine that it must be devastating if you by accident sold a fake book to someone. Your reputation as a limited bookseller must be in jeopardy by then. So how did you ensure that in the beginning?
Yeah, early on, I focused more on the signed limited editions because you don't have to worry about whether they're fake or not. And I made sure I bought from reputable booksellers, and that indeed the signature had a long signature and it was signed and dated by King. So those are more. Early on I did use the PSA DNA authentication a couple of times just to make sure on a few autographs that I thought were suspect. That's another thing. If you're buying from somebody, make sure they have a money-back guarantee, because once you have the book in hand, it might look different than what you see on your computer. It might actually be, hopefully it's the same signature, but you can take, during that 30-day money-back period, you can take it to somebody and just get another opinion to make sure you have something that's real.
Right.
Yeah.
I can hear that you are a big King fan. Is it hard to, when you get in some cool book that's signed, is it hard to sell it? Are you tempted to put it in your own bookcase and keep it in your own collection?
Yeah, it goes both ways. I've had books that I've had in my collection that I've sold, and I've had other books that I just hang on to. So yeah, to answer your question, I would say yes, it's been hard to resell them.
Yeah.
But we don't have only Stephen King books. We have Easton Press books. We have signed President's books, books by famous sports icons. But Stephen King is such a big author that, yeah, we do have quite a bit of his stuff in our catalog.
How do you keep all your books? You don't have a store, right? This is only over the internet.
We have an office. We keep them in a location that's environmentally controlled in terms of temperature and humidity.
Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, again, for somebody that has a good collection, that's one thing, is to make sure that it's in a good environment, in a strong bookcase that's earthquake proof, because you never know when you can get an earthquake, and the temperature or the humidity shouldn't be too high or too low.
Yeah. But you don't
Yeah.
have a store where people can go in and.
We don't have a brick and mortar store. No, we're online only.
Yeah.
Correct.
So how if I want to say
Sure.
I look for a special book that I want limited and signed, how would I go about to try and track it down if I only knew what book I want to have? And
Well, there's many places you can go. There's a search engine called addall.com. It's ADDALL.com, and that searches over hundreds of booksellers. That's on Amazon, AB Books, Very Fine Books. You can go to specialty forums for Stephen King. Sometimes people are selling their collection there. So you can message a forum user and get information about a book or collection that they're selling.
Right.
do you get a lot of like if I found someone at the forum that wanted to sell me a book, would I be able to send you like a photo of it and you could tell me if it's real or not, or do you have that service?
Well, many times some clients of ours are in that position. They're looking to buy a signed book, and they ask me if it's indeed authentic, and I give them my opinion. In some cases, we get people that write in, they want to determine what the value of their book is, and we don't really provide any appraisal services, because that could take quite a bit of time and research, especially if it's a book that we haven't had in our catalog before. So for that reason, we don't provide any appraisal services. There are actually companies out there that do that for a fee, that you can pay them.
Cool.
But in terms of finding if it's authentic, I can give you my opinion. If you can always contact us to get another opinion. Sure.
Yeah, because people sometimes write and ask me if an autograph by King is fake or real, but I never give anybody an answer to that, because I can't do it myself.
Sure.
Because I think when it comes to King as well, his signature has changed quite a bit over the years. If you look like something he signed in the early or late 70s and today, the signatures doesn't look the same.
Yeah, it's changed quite a bit. We did a blog post a while back where we showed all his autograph, how it's changed through the decades. From like something from the late 70s is very different from an autograph from 2014 or 13.
Yeah, and that must be hard, because I don't want to brag now, but I signed a couple of books of mine.
Sure.
And if I sign 5 books in a row, I mean, those 5 books signings won't look the same. There
are no 2 autographs that will be identical. If you sign 1 million books, every single one of your autographs will be a little different. But there will be characteristics that will be similar. Like the way, the stroke of the pen, the pressure that you put on it, the way you write the letters from your name.
Yeah.
So I imagine most of your books that you get are people that it sounds like what you said, that are presenting them to you for evaluation. I'm just wondering if you've ever had like gone on a treasure hunt, or like an Indiana Jones, like you've heard a rumor of somebody's got this book, or have you ever stumbled across a collector's edition on your own through some other collection or anything like that? Or
not so much. I've taken a trip down to Amherst, Mass, because somebody had this is not Stephen King, but they had an Easton Press collection of 600 books that we bought from them. But for the most part, it's been people and collectors contacting us from around the world, selling that they want to part with some of their titles.
Right. And do people
And
tend to part with their titles during harder economic times, or is there no real correlation between that?
yeah, we've had more purchases before than now. Now it's a little bit harder to get because people think their books are worth a little bit more than in the past, which is kind of true. So they want to get as much as possible.
Right.
So sometimes we're not able to come to an agreement because we have to resell them for a profit in most cases. So,
Sure.
yeah, to answer your question, I would say, yeah, during the economic times, we've had some collectors sell us more books than they would otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
But it must be hard for you because if when it
Yeah.
comes to regular bookstores that sell trade books, they buy them for a lesser price from the publisher, and then they can add their profit, and then they sell them. I mean, when people sell them to you, they
Right.
want to have what they're worth, and then when you sell them, you have to sell them for what they are worth. So it must be hard to make a profit.
Well, it depends on the title. For example, if you recall the Salem's Lot book that was done by Centipede Press in 2004,
Yeah.
the original price of that one was $400 or so, and we've purchased quite a few for over $1,000 or close to $1,500 in the past few years because it has tripled or quadrupled in price.
Wow.
So those original buyers that purchased for $450 and sold it for $1,500, it's not bad.
No, it's
Yeah.
great.
That's a nice turnaround for sure. For sure.
Yeah.
Now, unfortunately, Cemetery Dance prices their books up there in the marketplace. You may have seen, especially their letter editions that go for $2,000 or $2,500. That wasn't always the case.
Right.
Yeah. I have to ask you about
Sure.
galleys, since King has a new book coming out. The publisher is sending out galleys to reviewers, and usually they are going for quite a high price
Sure.
before the book is released, and afterwards they are dropping almost like stones, except
Right.
a few of them. What are your thoughts about those? Is it just because people want to read the books like a couple of months early, or is there really any value if you? Because I think that if you save them for like 10 years, they're going to be worth something again.
Well, there's never a guarantee that it'll be worth something again. It could be a timing issue when a new novel comes out, everybody gets excited about it, and they want to grab on to the signed first edition or the first edition of the book, so that it gets more exposure in the media and the marketplace. So a advanced reading copy might be worth more, actually be worth more than what it might be worth 5 years from now.
Yeah.
If actually off the top of my head, we have an advanced reader's copy of Lizzie's story in our catalog that's a little bit under $100.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I would be careful about that.
Yeah, because I've been offered quite a lot of money for some galleys I've gotten, and it
Right.
seems quite ridiculous to me to pay that much for a book that's going to be out just a couple of months later, and
Yes.
usually you see the galleys are dropping once the book is out. So I guess it's just that people want to read them quickly.
Yeah, it depends on the title too. You might look at a Proof of Carrie or The Gunslinger; those are worth quite a bit. Or
Yeah.
a galley of It from '86, that's worth
Right.
quite a bit.
Yeah.
Right.
So again, the more popular the title, the chances are that it'll be worth more money or will have a higher value.
Right.
Yeah.
So I have to ask you then, because it's very
Sure.
interesting that Stephen King is, is a big collectible writer, but he's not really into collectibles himself. And he said quite a few times that books should be read and not collected. I'm just wondering, did you cringe when he said that, or or did you take that a different way?
Well, I took it a different way because he's done so many sign limited and letter editions over the years. There's so many out there that he's done, which
Right.
it's counterintuitive. It goes against what he says.
Right.
But not everybody who reads is a collector. I remember from one of the interview or the very first interview that Lilia did with King that you did. He
Yeah.
said that a story is a story, whether you print it on a piece of paper or a cardboard or on a
Yeah.
paperback. The story doesn't change. So people that read are not necessarily collectors. I think the collectors, they see like beauty and art in their books beyond just the content inside them. It's more about the aesthetic nature,
Mm-hmm.
that they can put something up in their library or home office for display.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think what King
Yeah,
opposed was that if you buy a book for several hundreds of dollars and you don't
sure.
read the story, it's a little waste of time and money maybe. But you could, as you say, you could buy one version that you want to display as a collectible, and you buy another one that you actually read. So
Yeah, I've spoken to customers that read their signed limited editions, and some
Mm-hmm.
even their signed lettereds. I've
Right.
spoken to a couple that only read a book that the author has personally signed to them because they have a specific connection to that author.
Hmm.
So there's no right or wrong here. It's really your personal choice. There are no two collections in the world that are exactly the same.
Right.
no.
And every book is a limited edition. If you think about it, some more so than others.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And-
Yeah, personally, I don't collect much of the expensive books because, frankly, I can't afford it. But I have a collection that I'm very happy about, and that is that I collect one book in every language that King has been
Sure.
translated into. So, and I guess that's not worth very much in dollars, but I can relate to the hunt when I find a book that's
Right.
in some distant corner of the world that's been released in 300 copies to a few local people almost, and the hunt of finding a copy and getting it to complete the collection. So I guess it's much about finding the stuff, and I mean, you used to say that once you have everything, your collection is full. It's no fun anymore. A lot of the fun is in actual collecting.
Yeah, the fun is the collecting, hunting down that title. We had many years ago. We had a Japanese version of Carrie, which I have never
Yeah.
seen again in my life.
Oh, wow.
So that was quite unique.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But over the years, your taste may change. They
Yeah.
don't stay the same.
Yeah, I'm
I
hoping
wasn't
to win the lottery and have a lot of money. Then I'm
sure.
gonna start collecting limiteds. But say you get you buy a book from somewhere,
Mhm.
and then you're gonna price it for your customers. What do you look at, and how do you decide what you are going to take for it?
Well, we look at the overall condition. I go online and look at several sources of what other similar books are selling for, and I look at existing sales data. So over the past 10 years, we have a spreadsheet of what books have sold. So that's a good data point there. So it really depends on the current marketplace and what other comparables are going for, depending on condition. That's the one thing I would say. If you're looking at buying a collectible, the condition plays such a big role. Some of these books are worth hundreds, if not thousands, of dollars, and even if you have a small crease or a tear in the dust jacket, that could affect the value. Especially in some of the early books published by King, the dust jackets are not easily replaceable, and they could be worth almost as much as 75% of their value.
Wow.
Are you nervous when you
So,
send out a book to a customer? Because I at least here in Sweden, the postal office workers aren't always that careful with packages, even if it's written on them that they are what do you call it?
yeah,
You
we've
have to
never.
handle
Mhm.
with care. So are you nervous that they will be
Yeah,
damaged?
we've never had a lost or stolen package delivered to a customer. We make sure that everything's packed very well, tightly, and secured in strong, new heavy-duty boxes.
Yeah.
A lot of times we double box the books so they have extra protection. We've never had to file any insurance for a lost or damaged book.
Cool.
And we ship to places all over the world, like England, Brazil, Australia,
Yeah.
some books to Sweden.
Yeah. That's
Any to you, Lilja?
that is actually one of the big problems with not living in the US, because if most limited books are done in the US, and
Right.
if I would buy one and have it shipped here, the shipping cost is almost as much, is maybe sometimes even more than the actual price of the book. And then when it arrives here, I have to pay tax for it, and the postal office need to have some fee. And so, do you experience that a lot with foreign customers, that they are? I mean,
Yeah, they
obviously you
understand.
can't be blamed for the postal office fees, but do you notice that customer abroad are more reluctant to buy books because it will be a bigger cost for them?
Yeah, they have to account that into the cost. For some of the higher value titles, we offer free shipping worldwide. But when they get it into the country, they have to pay a certain percentage in customs fees. So they have to account that in their decision. So we do have customers that ask us, how much is our customs going to charge us for accepting this order?
Yeah.
Right.
Have you had angry customers who didn't ask beforehand and just?
Yeah, there've been a couple of, I'd say one or two that I can remember that weren't ready to pay 15 or 20% in duties fees. So that's something you have to keep in mind when placing an order that's a higher value.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know here in Sweden for a fact that they are taking out a fee, and then the postal office are taking out a fee to do the job of taking out a fee. So there's a lot of extra costs sometimes when you get stuff from overseas.
Yeah,
Sure.
I know shipping costs are becoming exorbitant now, especially if you're not inside the States. But in one instance where as I said, I don't really do a lot of collectibles, but I had always wanted to get the Knowing Darkness book that the Cemetery Tenants put out with Stephen King, all the artwork that was in there.
Yes, I know that one.
Yeah, and they were having a sale on books that were slightly damaged or whatever, and I actually got one for like a really good price, and the shipping cost was still about the same price as the book. But I thought, you know what, for this one instance, I will do it. And when I got the book, I've searched it from top to bottom, and I, for the life of me, cannot see what's wrong with it. So I felt very fortunate about that. And that's an interesting book, because if I look at it on site, I see prices. Like I'm looking at Amazon right now. I'm looking at your site. I don't know if you have any in stock or not, but because the prices go from like $349, and then there's a couple of used ones that go for $1,214 and one for $1,500. So there's quite a price range, and I guess this is just the people trying to see what the market will take.
There could be quite a price range for any given title. How much did you end up paying for shipping to you?
I think it was like $80 or something like that.
$80. That sounds about. It's because it's an oversized.
Yes, it's a very large, heavy
volume.
book.
So
yes,
that sounds about right.
Yeah, but it's an awesome book. I really love it. I'm looking at your site. If I had the money, I think it'd be a toss up for me between the one that you have, the stand, that looks like the Coffin Bible edition. That just looks like a gorgeous book.
Yeah, that's a popular one. We sell one or two of those per year.
Ah, okay. Wow, that is a gorgeous book. Is that the most expensive, or is that your favorite Stephen King collectible book?
That is my favorite Stephen King book, and it's one of the most expensive ones that we've sold over the years, just because it's the stand. It's a classic novel. The book itself has the leather binding and the gilded page edges, so it's very luxurious. It's inside the linen coffin box.
Yeah.
So it does well.
Yes, that's a gorgeous book. Do they produce a couple of copies every year, or are you just saying you sell a couple of copies every year?
We sell a couple of copies every year. They produced 1,250 copies in 1990 and a handful of letter editions. The letter edition of this book is essentially the same book. There's no difference except on the limitation page, instead of a number, you'll see a letter.
Oh,
So it's different than some of the letter editions that have come out recently, like The Shining from Subterranean Press.
mm-hmm.
The letter edition is it's a very different production than the regular sign numbered edition.
Right. Right. Yeah, it's a gorgeous
So early,
book.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I also see you have a Dark Tower
So-
limited edition for quite a bit.
It is when it comes to numbered and lettered edition. I understand that if you have like the Dark Tower, you want them all in the same number. Is that common? Because I read
Well-
online that many people are trying to get the same number on every of the 7 books.
Well, the Dark Tower series, the very first book, The Gunslinger, was limited to only 500 copies.
Yeah.
The later books in the series had limitations which were double that. They were from 1,200 to 1,500.
Mm.
So if you have a Dark Tower 2 that's in the 700 or 800 numbers, it's impossible to match up the first one with it. So for that reason, there are very few complete numbers matching books in existence. I have seen only 3 or 4 over the past few years available.
Yeah. Mm.
But if you have it's more important to have a complete set of all the 9 volumes than to have them all exactly the same number, because it's much more difficult.
Mm.
Is a lower number more valuable than a higher number, or is that just?
Yeah, that's something that it was surprising to me. But one thing I discovered early on is that collectors were willing to spend a little higher for the lower numbered books, maybe 10 to 15% higher, and those sell quicker.
Okay.
The theory being, when the author starts to sign books, let's say the first 50 or 100, his signature is a much better quality than if he signs after 1,000 or 1,500. But I don't buy that. I think it's, but it's perception.
Isn't I know when I signed some of my books, you get a sheet and you sign it, and then they bind it into the book, and then they number it, because they don't know which of these are going to be damaged by the printer and stuff like this. So that theory wouldn't stick if that was the case.
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
There have been so many sign limited editions. I'm sure at some point, for some productions, they sign them in order. They number them first, and then they sign them.
Okay. Is a book that is flat signed more valuable than one that's dedicated?
I have seen it both ways. Some people say they prefer something that's flat signed and not personalized to somebody else. For example, for Donna, Best Wishes, Stephen King. Like, if your name's not Donna, maybe you don't want to have that book.
Right.
So for those people, they would prefer something that's flat signed. Personally, I like the longer inscriptions. The longer, the better. And if it's dated, it's even better. It's more desirable.
Right. Right. This is a naive question, but I'm just wondering. I heard a story where somebody had a first copy edition of, I think it was Carrie, and he brought it to a book signing, and Stephen King refused to sign it, or he didn't, or maybe he didn't refuse, but he said he couldn't sign it. Could you explain that to me? Have you heard that story?
Yeah, I have heard in the past 5 years, he just has refused to sign. You're speaking of a book signing event. He brought it to a book signing.
Yeah.
Yeah, usually the rules have gotten more strict over the years because there's so much demand. More and more people go to these book signing events, so they want to get them through. So if they had every single person bring 2 more books with them for him to sign, it would just take forever. The process would just take forever. So they've had stricter rules over in the past few years regarding what or what not to sign.
I was aware of that. When I heard it, I just thought he just wouldn't sign that book because it was, I guess it would have made the value of the book skyrocket. Would it have gone up as much as it been signed like originally or something like that? Or like if he signs it
would have gone up by a few $1,000s, but if you had a Carrie with an inscription from 1979 or from from the 1980s, it would be worth more because it's a contemporary signature.
Okay.
What's much earlier.
Okay. Okay. So you just think he
Yeah.
didn't sign it, refused to sign it because it was not part of that book signing event?
It could have been part of the rules. They asked him
Right.
not to sign anything except the book being released.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
But I was actually experiencing something quite similar in 2006 when he was in London promoting Lizzy's story.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I was at the press conference, and after the press conference, he signed the books for the press that was there, and maybe it was like 20 or 30 people, so it wasn't very many. And I had got an invitation for the press event later that night, and I asked him to sign that invitation, and that he
Okay.
didn't want to sign. So
He didn't want to sign it?
no.
Huh.
So
That's
he
interesting.
signed a couple of books instead. So, but I don't know why he didn't want to sign it. So
Isn't there a video of him on YouTube signing somebody's diaper? I did. Do you remember that? There was a woman on the street, like with her baby, and he happens to
Okay.
be in the corner, and he signs her baby's diaper.
Oh, where is that diaper now?
I'm not making that up. You can go on YouTube and look.
yeah,
That
I
diaper's
saw the
probably worth
video actually. I'm not making that up.
that diaper's worth a lot, I bet. Yeah.
So if you see a diaper on eBay signed by King, it might be real.
might be real. Speaking of that, do you if someone offer you something signed by King that isn't a book, would you buy that?
If it wasn't a diaper,
Yeah, if it wasn't a diaper,
uh,
but like a card or a baseball or
no, we don't get into cards or stuff like that. Our specialty is more in books,
yeah.
like rare books, signed limited, signed letter editions.
Yeah, because I know King isn't very fond of signing photos, so a signed photo of King would probably be worth quite a lot.
Right, I have a signed photo of King with an inscription below that.
Yeah.
But that's mine. That's not something we would offer online.
Yeah.
At
But
least not.
if someone was offering you to buy one, would you buy that? Or is it just you're just buying books?
It depends at the time. If I was specifically looking for for a picture of King with his signature below that, you may have seen other postcards with King's signature
Yeah.
floating around. So that's something that I would just be more careful about.
Mhm.
Yeah.
In my experience, the most popular books are the first editions that King has held in his own hand and signed it with a pen in his own hand. So that gives you the most personal connection to the author, whereas some of the sign limit editions where they do the limitation pages first and then have them bound into the book, it's different. It's a different procedure.
Yeah. Yeah, it's because I have some that I've actually stood eye to eye with King when he signed, and those are the most valuable to me. And I mean, it's Lizzy's story and books like that, so it's not really a special book, but to me personally, it's worth a lot more than a book that would sell for thousands of dollars. So it's
you have the experience and the memory of it. We went to a book signing in Portsmouth, New Hampshire for Full Dark, No Stars.
Yeah.
A few years back. So he signed a couple of books for us. So that was unique. So it's about the experience.
But those books you're keeping or
those books we keep. Yeah, of course, because it's the memory of what the signed book stands for. You can just remember the time that you went to see Stephen King.
Yeah,
totally.
I was always get this bad feeling when you see those the plant he did and sent out to as a Christmas card, I think, to people.
Yes.
And you see those for sale, and I almost get a bad feeling that how would King feel about it? He's done this postcard and sent out to friends, and then I see them selling it on eBay. It can't be a fun feeling.
Right, it happens. Those are what you call association copies,
Yeah,
where he might sign something to his professor or a close friend or a relative, and then you see them on being sold elsewhere.
yeah,
They just get circulated.
Yeah.
yeah. It's very strange. I think. I
Yeah, it
mean,
happens.
I can understand maybe if you did it if you were in a real economical crisis and you had to do it to survive, but otherwise it's quite an insult to King or any author for that matter who's done something that and gave it to you and signed it and you're selling it. I don't.
Right, I agree with that. It happens to other authors as well, not just King.
Yeah.
Because you're giving something personal to another person, you wouldn't expect them to sell it.
No.
It's funny, we do have one question from one of our listeners, but before I get to
Sure.
that, I just wanted to, I don't know, are you aware of the Stephen King illustrated companion book by Bev Vincent? Have you seen that book?
Yes, I'm aware of that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that book goes for like cheap, like $20 or less, I'm telling
Yeah.
you. But it has all these facsimile reproductions of, early works by Stephen King and that you can pull out of these sleeves and folders. And I would pay a lot more for that book than than what it's being sold for. So its value is a very funny thing because I realize these are just reproductions and stuff and that, but it's one of the coolest books I've ever seen. I don't know if you've ever had a chance to go through it, but I think that's just a fantastic book.
Yeah, it goes both ways. It's really what your personal preference is. Some books
Yeah.
that you might think are worth $3,000 or $4,000 to somebody else, they're not worth that much, and vice versa.
Yeah. Because I realize
Yeah,
it's just reproductions, but it's cool.
It's just reproductions, right?
Yeah. It's very cool.
yeah, but I think that's the kind of book you buy to get the information and get to see what it looked like and stuff like that for people who are truly interested in how things were when they were released.
Yeah.
You're not buying that for collectible.
Yeah, exactly. You're buying it for the content of it,
Yeah.
for the artistic content.
Yeah.
All right.
It's a different purpose.
Yeah, before we go to the Facebook
Sure.
question, I just have to, because audiobooks and ebooks, I understand that ebooks can never be collectibles because you can reproduce them yourself and do
Right.
how many ever. But audiobooks, I know that King did signed limited for the Gunslinger and Drawing of the Three. Because I actually have one of the later that's signed and numbered. So there are a few audiobooks as well as collectibles, or?
Yeah, there are a few audiobooks that are collectible as long as they're in limited supply and somebody's willing to offer more for it than the original price, then that would consider it to be a collectible. But for an ebook, that's similar. It's an electronic medium. It's the same as an MP3 song. So, for example, the same song that you can download or ebook that you can download today, you can also download it 10 years from now. So it will never become scarce. You can easily share it too, because it is an electronic media. You can email it to somebody or post it online for download, although I don't think that's legal.
No. That doesn't stop people, though.
That doesn't stop people from doing that.
No. What are your feelings about ebooks? Because I know a lot of people refuse to read ebooks because they don't.
My wife loves to read ebooks. She has them on her iPad and she reads them all the time. I don't like ebooks. I like to physically hold the book because it's something like a tangible object.
Yeah.
Right.
I just like to flip the pages and go read every page. I just don't like ebooks looking at the electronic screen. So I'm not a fan of it.
Personally, I think it's very practical to read an ebook.
Sure.
And for some reason, and I don't really know why this is, but I read faster when I read an ebook than I read a real book.
Okay.
And I don't know why that is actually. But I'm reading.
Maybe you just think you are.
Yeah, maybe it's all an illusion.
I don't know.
You might have to time yourself.
Yeah.
For a chapter speed.
Yeah, I might have to do that. Or by coincidence, I've read books that are faster reads as ebook and not as, I don't know, but I get the feeling that the flow is more faster when I read an ebook. But I don't have any proof that it's actually going faster, but it's the feeling that I
Right.
get.
From your
Well, you
perspective,
certainly can argue. Go
go
on.
ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to add that certainly ebooks are more practical. If you're
Right.
traveling somewhere, you can fit many ebooks on your iPad,
Yeah.
and read them on the go, whereas you don't have to put 20 books in your backpack and lug those around.
Yeah.
Yeah, I imagine from a business perspective, the more popular ebooks become, the more valuable actual printed books would become. So it would,
It's a different category.
okay,
So ebooks are mostly consumed for their content, whereas collectible books are for their aesthetic nature and that for the fact that few people own them.
okay. So you don't see one affecting the other then.
I don't foresee a situation where one could affect the other.
Okay.
No, I don't think we're gonna experience the same thing that like with records and MP3
right.
songs. I don't think we're gonna have the same impact with books because books has been with us for so very long. So
Yeah, it's a
I
different
don't
application.
yeah, I think we will always have books to read.
Well, one is technology, one is not. An ebook is a form of media
Hmm.
Yeah,
you can download.
Yep. Yep.
yeah.
Alrighty. So we've been going for
Okay.
over an hour. I think we better get to that listener question
Yeah.
Yep.
and let poor Manuel go back to enjoying his weekend. So we have a question from David Wayne Signorino. And David, I'm sorry if I
Okay.
pronounced your last name wrong. He wants to know how many Stephen King books are available through Easton Press, and also he has a couple of Master of Science Fiction editions. And maybe when you're answering, you could explain exactly what Easton Press is, because you've referenced it a couple of times during this, and I'm heard of them, but I'm not totally familiar with what makes them so special.
Yeah, Easton Press, they're out of Norwalk, Connecticut. They make leather-bound heirloom editions. They're very fancy leather-bound books, which have the golden, the gilded page edges and fancy ribbon markers. So they make very durable, collectible books. Many of them are signed, and these are books that that are so durable they last hundreds of years. So
Oh,
if you properly maintain an Easton Press book, it could be the same in 300 years as it is now.
wow.
So they're quite popular. If you visit our online catalog or our website, you'll see that we have quite a few of Easton Press books, just
Mhm.
because they are so popular among collectors, especially the signed first editions and signed limited editions. So the only title by King is The Dead Zone that I know of that Easton Press did, and that
Okay.
was done, like you said, part of their masterpieces of science fiction
Okay.
series. There are two different publication runs that they did. The first one was in 1993,
Hmm.
and there was a second reprint done in 2004. You can tell the differences between the spine design.
Okay.
Some people prefer the earlier 93 versions because that was technically the first printing.
Sure.
Actually, if you go to our website and search for Easton Press Dead Zone, you can see the differences in the spine.
Okay. Yeah, I'm looking at
Um,
them right now. Yeah. Nice, very nice looking book. Yep.
a couple of years ago, we had a signed Dead Zone by Easton Press that we sold to a good client of ours in England, it was signed by King. It's the
Hmm.
only one I have seen in the past 9 years.
Mm.
So that was quite unique.
Right.
May we ask how much that went for?
That was a few years ago. It was 600, 650,
Okay.
around there.
Hmm.
The frontispiece of the book, which is the illustration across from the title page,
Yeah.
that's done by Joe Bowman, that you may have heard of.
Hmm.
And if you contact her, you can get an artistry mark done for this book. You just have to send her your book, and she will mail it back with a color remark along with the signature.
Okay.
And remarks have become quite popular in the past few years. We might have an example of this on our website. Some people love remarks, some people hate them. The ones that don't necessarily care for them is because they prefer the original state of the book untouched in its original state.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I personally, I like them because it adds a certain extra unique element to the book. And a remark done tastefully also adds value because you get an artist's signature along with an original piece of artwork.
Okay.
So there's nothing wrong with that.
No.
I guess that makes the book more unique, because then even if they produce
Right.
like 100 signed, and then if you get the remark, it will only be that book that has exactly that remark. So you have something more unique then.
Yeah, exactly. You have something more unique than the original production.
Yeah.
Usually Easton Press does 1,000 to 1,200 of each limited edition.
Mm-hmm.
So the 1993 edition has 1,000 in circulation, which is the same, goes true for the 2004 edition.
That's a very nice looking book.
Yeah, it's a bit confusing for me, because when you have a limited book, if you collect it, you want to keep it in as good shape as possible, and you shouldn't open it, and you should to preserve the best value, you should just pack it and not open it. But then on the other hand, if you give it to someone and they draw in it, it will become even more valuable. So it's a little bit contradictive. And how should one know what modifications make it more worth and what doesn't?
Well, if your 5-year-old draws in it, it'll be worth less.
It might depend on what that 5-year-old grows up and become.
Yeah,
right?
True. In many cases, you can contact the author or the artist directly and have them remark the book.
Yeah.
You just have to send them, and they usually charge a fee. They don't do it for free, and then they send the book back. But you are correct saying that it does add a certain characteristic to it. I have read The Dead Zone. I do have a Eastern Press edition of The Dead Zone, and this is a book that I have read. And if you read it carefully, it shouldn't look that much different than before.
Yeah. So the rule is, as long as the people who draw in your book are involved with the book, it's okay.
Yeah, obviously they would have to be the artist. Yeah, the artist did the book.
Yeah. Or if King made a drawing in it.
Or if King made a drawing.
Yeah.
One of the popular first editions is of it. You may have seen that he draws an inscription with a balloon around it.
Yeah.
It's unique.
Yeah,
because it connects to the story, obviously.
Yeah, I saw something that I really wanted. I did an interview with the people who did the cover for the US edition of Under the Dome, and they sent me in digital form a drawing that King had done for how he wanted the book cover to be, and it was just a dome and some drawings.
Oh wow!
And that would be interesting to have the actual piece of drawing that he did.
So he did a sketch of what he wanted, his vision of what the cover of Under the Dome should be?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's very simple compared to what the cover actually became. But you can clearly see that it's a dome and the town is under. It's actually on my site in the interview with the people who did the cover. So.
Oh wow.
It's quite interesting.
And you have that sketch?
No, I don't have that sketch. They only sent me a scan of it.
They sent you a scan of it.
Yeah, so I don't have the actual sketch. No, I wish I did though, but I don't.
Yeah, somebody has it.
Yeah, somebody has it. Yeah, it must be interesting to be. I mean, whatever King does, people want. So I mean, if he's say he's at the restaurant and waiting for the food. He could take a napkin and draw something, and then when he's done, he can say, "Oh, I don't have to pay. You can take this instead."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
it's quite interesting that he could do that.
Okay.
Yeah, it's fascinating because people love to read him and collect him. So yeah.
So, Emmanuel, are you up for a little on-air evaluation of a book for me?
Sure. Let's go.
I'm looking at your website. I'm getting all excited, even though this is not a signed book, but and I don't know how much of a difference that's going to make. But I have a Book of the Month Club 2000 edition of Stephen King's Secret Windows. And
Oh, okay.
it's not signed, though. So what would that be worth?
Well, so the Secret Windows book, the book of the month, was the only edition from that year. So
Okay.
so that's the book of the month club is the only edition he did for Secret Windows.
Okay.
And you said you have a first edition of that?
Copyright 2000.
I would have to look that one up.
Okay.
Um,
All right. Well, I was
give me a
just
sec.
curious. I thought about these.
Let me see if I can get my internet working right now. I'm on the iPad.
Sure. Yeah.
I have that book as well, so it's interesting.
Yeah, because it's not signed, so it's obviously not going to be what you're listing on your website. But I was just going, holy cow.
Does it have the original dust jacket?
Yep, it's
It's in good shape.
Yeah, and it's been somebody's put plastic around it, so
A dust jacket protector. I would say $50 to $75.
wow. Okay, cool. That's all right. I paid a lot less for it, so I feel good.
Is it different? Is the value different based on where King signed the book? If he signed it like inside or on the dust jacket, or would that make a difference?
Most collectors prefer for any author to sign it exactly right on the title page underneath their name, or anywhere on the title page. So that is worth a little bit more than if he were to sign it on the first free end paper. There are books that you may have come across that say professionally tipped in signature pages. You really want to avoid those because that's somebody's attempt to artificially inflate the value of a book by taking a first edition and rebinding it with the signature page in order to make the value go higher. So it's not original, and the author hasn't technically signed that particular book. They just added a signature page to it.
And if there's a signature on the dust jacket, on the front of the book?
I haven't seen too many of those. That's not an area we would get into in terms of collectability.
Okay. I'm asking because I have one a copy of a Swedish edition of Insomnia that King signed for me on the front.
He signed it right on the dust jacket?
Yeah, in gold.
Well, his signature would add a few $100s to the book's value.
Yeah.
So if you you witness him sign it, it's not a book that you bought from somebody else, correct?
It was sent to him. It was before when he accepted book by mail. So I haven't actually seen him sign it, but I sent it to him and gotten it back from him.
Okay.
Yeah.
Usually, I would say 99 or more of the books that he signs directly onto the title page.
Yeah.
So from that perspective, to have a book where he signed on a dust jacket, it's quite rare.
Cool.
Yeah.
Too bad it wasn't in English, though.
You don't have to read the book.
It's still his autograph.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's dedicated to me as well, so I would never sell it.
That's
but
cool.
It's you don't often see signatures on the front of the book, which is sad, really, because this one looks much nicer in my bookcase when you can see the signature than those other books. You really can't see that they are signed.
Yeah, the conflict with him signing a dust jacket is that you can always take the dust jacket off and place it on another book that's in better condition. So it's not the same thing as him signing inside the book.
Right.
No, that's true. That's true. Yeah. Okay. This is a very interesting subject, and I think we could spend a couple of hours more talking about it.
Yes, we want to thank you very much for coming on.
Yeah, and if our listeners have any questions, they can send them to us, or they can contact you directly through your site if they are looking for something, or just have an extra few bucks they want to spend.
Yeah, thank you very much for inviting me on your podcast. It's been a great time. I very much enjoyed speaking with both of you.
Yeah, it was very interesting and fun to talk to you as well.
Yeah, is there anything that you wanted to mention that we haven't discussed so far in the podcast?
Yeah.
Not really. I think we've covered quite a few topics, so I just wanted to thank everybody for listening in.
Okay. Cool. I guess we
And
do
if
get a
you
lot
have
of
any other,
yeah,
go
because we
on.
do get a lot of listeners that are asked about collectibles. So we're very thankful that you took the time to talk to us about it today.
Yeah, if you have any other questions and you'd like to follow up, I'd be happy to come back and share some more insight. I know
Cool.
this is a topic that can, like you said, we can talk for hours about this because there's so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
We're just talking about one author here, so
That's
Yep,
right.
yep.
Yes. And your site is veryfinebooks.com. So
Yep.
for everybody that's
can-
listening, go check it out. He's got some
cool.
great pictures of a lot of King books. Plus, as you mentioned, you have carried quite a few other books. There's a President's Line, Astronaut's Library. I'm just looking at a couple of things here. Complete works of Hemingway. Wow, that's very nice.
Yeah.
So a lot of cool stuff there.
We also take books on consignment. We just sold a full Dark Tower series on a consignment basis, so we do take some unique rare items on a consignment.
Okay. Cool.
That's a service that we provide. So if anybody has any questions, just write in or call us. We have a toll-free number you can call.
Very
Yeah.
good.
Great.
All right.
Excellent.
Well, it was very excellent to have you on. It was very nice to meet you.
Yeah. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Thank you. I really enjoyed it.
Awesome.
Yep.
Good. See?
All right.
Now you're going to run your own podcast, right?
I know, and I'm tempted to start one.
Yeah. Okay. Take
Yeah.
Just
care.
gotta find the time. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you
Take
very
care.
much. Have a
Yeah.
good day.
You too.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
So that is it for this time. The next time we are going to talk about Stand By Me, the story, which is called The Body, and the movie, which is called Stand By Me. So if you have any comments, questions, thoughts, I would actually like to hear from someone who doesn't like this movie, because everyone I've spoken to like it.
Mhm.
So it would be fun to hear from someone who doesn't like it, if there are someone out there who doesn't like it.
Yeah.
So get in touch with us and tell us why you don't like it if you don't.
Mhm.
But as usual, until then, stay scared,
But stay safe.
stay safe.